Okay, we're going to do something a little different. I am going to talk about this full moon in this reading, which I have pulled up, and I will actually add right up into that corner for this reading. So, I want to talk about all of the different aspects that I am seeing happening during this full moon, which is happening Pacific Standard Time at 12:17 a.m. on February 27th. So, when I'm filming this, that's about 6.5 hours from now tonight. And so the energy is very ripe for this full moon. We do have access to the full moon energy for a few days before, during, and after the full moon. So never put so much pressure on yourself time-wise that you have to do your full moon intentions like in this one small window. It is most potent right at the time of the full moon, but you easily have 2 to 3 days on either side to work with this full moon energy. Okie dokie. So full moons, most of you know, is all about releasing and letting go and making space so that you can have that space to create new things. Similar to how a new moon is really all about what you're calling in. Well, in order to call all of that in, you have to be able to make space and probably release some things. So I also honestly really view both the new moons and the full moons as very fluid in the emphasis of releasing to call in. And so that's just my own interpretation and my own experience with working with new moons and working with full moons and doing different rituals and release ceremonies or calling in ceremonies or any and all of that. Like, it is two parts of the same whole. It is a yin and yang. And you will hear me say yin and yang, not yin and yang ever, because I'm trained in traditional Chinese medicine. And you will never hear a Chinese person say yang. That is a very westernized American way of saying it. So that's just I have a little pet peeve there sometimes. No offense taken to anyone. I hope you say it however you like, but it feels so much more harmonious through my throat chakra and my mouth to say yang. And it's also not yang. It's just yin, Y-I-N, and then yang, Y-A-N-G. Okay, and they're two parts of the same whole. So the reason why I bring all of that up, I did not mean to go into a lecture on the pronunciation of yang, although I'm glad I did. But the point is that you don't have to put so much pressure on yourself around the specifics of if you're doing it right or not. Similar to how I view retrogrades, it's really about the mindset that you have going into it. And so if you're thinking about things like, oh no, or this, I need to do this, if you're putting stress or tension into it mentally, like walking in, it's just gonna be not as smooth as it could be if you are more of an observer and allow things to unfold and have intentions that you want to set. That was a bit too much for me, but I hope that helps. I hope that brings some clarity. So around this full moon, it's really cool to look at all of the different things that are going on with it. So you can see at the top of the chart, we have the moon at 8 degrees Virgo, and at the bottom of the chart, in the 4th house, we have the sun at 8 degrees Pisces, which is an opposition, which is always a full moon. Whenever we have the sun and moon in opposition, it's a full moon. Whenever in a chart you see the moon and the sun together, it's a new moon. Okay. So just speaking about the full moon energy and the dynamics and the houses that it falls in tonight when it happens, we have this ability to really look at what we want to release from either the identity that we've created, focusing on our work out in the world so that we can bring a bit more heart-centered and connectedness, heart-centeredness back into the home and family dynamic, and or what are the ways that you've identified yourself or that family has identified you as that you want to transform and change so that you can really feel very confident going out into the world and creating your new identity. The 4th and 10th house themes have a lot to do with identity. The 4th house is our roots, our home, hearth, where we've come from, and family, specifically like the nuclear unit. And then the 10th house is our careers, our honors and awards, where we're aspiring to grow to in this lifetime, and thus, create honors, awards, accolades, acknowledgement. How do you affect the world outside of yourself? That's all 10th house business. How were you shaped and came to know yourself in the identity that you grew up in and your roots? And maybe are there themes to release from either one of these to help transform and make the other one stronger or up-leveled or more in alignment with what you're creating? This is really general. I mean, this is the placement for everyone in the collective. However, depending on what your own unique birth chart is with this, it's going to give you a very different dynamic. So take it loosely, take it with a grain of salt. However, that being said, we all have the accessibility with this full snow moon in Virgo to really see how we can be a bit more flexible in these mutable signs of Virgo and Pisces, because they're mutable, they're flexible, they're adaptable, they're able to kind of go with the flow a little bit more, shape shift, versus fixed signs which hold the energy of a specific season, and the cardinal signs which initiate the energy of a brand new season. Well, when spring comes and Aries initiates it, first day of spring, we then have Taurus. I'm sorry. Yeah, okay. I was mixing it up, but when we have Taurus next. And Taurus is a fixed sign, and it is holding the energy of spring. It is very much, we are in springtime. And then you have Gemini come along, which is a mutable sign. And Gemini kind of carries the torch from springtime, from Taurus. Thanks for holding down the spring, love the flowers, and moves it along to hand it off to Cancer, who initiates the summer, a brand new season. And so whenever we have a mutable sign, they're the ones that shape shift from what has been very strongly to what is going to become. Okay? So we have everyone has this full moon happening in 2 mutable signs, Pisces and Virgo. So there is a bit of where have we either been too flexible, wishy-washy, not able to really hold what we want to create for ourselves. That's one way to look at it. And how can we release those dynamics so that we can really initiate who we are becoming? And or in which ways can you view this full moon as being kind of a more flexible one for you to be able to release what isn't working for you and call in what you want? It's about how you think about it. It's about your intention with it. It's about your imagination with it. So you can really kind of play with those different dynamics and find what works for you. So it is mostly for all of us. The theme is, how can we be a bit more flexible, or how can we use flexibility to our advantage to release whatever identity we want to release that isn't serving us any longer, and to create a new one so that the world is benefited and our roots and our family are benefited. Okay. Now, here's some fun extra things that are also going on right now. In particular, I want to talk about Uranus, whatever, the planet of surprise, sudden change, shifting, rules, earthquakes and storms and natural disasters. Not to sound like crazy or intense about it, but Uranus is unpredictable change, very sudden shifts. And we have Uranus in Taurus at 7 degrees, and it's forming a trine to this full moon. Right? Am I getting that right? Yeah. The trine between Uranus and Taurus at 7 degrees in this earth sign is forming a trine, which is very easygoing, very, it's able to flow quite well with this mutable earth sign, Virgo, where the moon currently is, this full moon that is allowing us to release what doesn't serve us so that we can call in what does, okay? Help us transform. This Uranus, this planet of sudden change and surprise, is aiding us in this full moon to really very quickly and almost effortlessly step into this new energy that we're calling in for ourselves by releasing what isn't working. Now, Uranus and Taurus, this sudden change planet, is also forming a sextile with the sun, which is forming, this full moon business, this opposition between the moon, which is what we're talking about entirely. 1144, nice. Mm-hmm. So we have not only this easygoing aspect helping with the moon to release things, but we also have a somewhat easygoing aspect in this sextile between Uranus, planet of sudden change, and the sun, just what's expected, what's predicted to show up again tomorrow, and again the next day, and again the next day, right? There's a predictability about the sun and its ability to provide warmth, nurturing life force, literally. Now, a sextile isn't as easygoing as a trine, but it still is easygoing. The only difference is that it takes a little bit of elbow grease, meaning that in order to have this planet of sudden change and surprise in Taurus work in our advantage towards how we want to show up every day, right? Because we're being asked to transform that, to transform our identity. So the sun is there's going to need to be a bit of contemplation about it, of intention setting about it, and some work. It doesn't have to be really hard work, but just kind of like how a wheel sometimes can get stuck. Like think of a wheel on a car or a wagon. Let's go back in the day. And you have a wheel that's kind of stuck in the mud. It might take a person or two putting some force and pushing that wheel to get it going again. But then once the wheel's going, the wheel's going. Like, do we need the people behind it continuing to push it? No, it's working very smoothly and effortlessly. So a sextile is kind of like that, where we do have to kind of put an initial like oomph into it for it to go really smoothly. So the oomph here is, how do I want to take what has been pretty fixed in my life, Taurus energy, solid, maybe reliable, also at times maybe stubborn or like slow, stuck. These are shadow sides of Taurus. I'm not saying that Taurus is this always, but there are some themes there that we can really look at. And how can we decide to shift gears a bit with how we show up each day, our sun, our vitality, our warmth, how we shine light in the world, so that we can become this next version of ourselves. Because that sudden change, that Uranus energy is just moving so smoothly with what we want to release. You could find yourself being able to release old ways of thinking about yourself and kind of pivot a little bit, which could be a little more challenging, but towards a direction that you now want to show up in consistently. So think about that. How do you want to change gears so that you can build a new foundation for who you are, what you're creating in the world? We have lots of Taurus aspects with Aquarius. We have a lot of fixed signs in this, all forming squares with one another. So this full moon's also highlighting there are some other aspects in the sky that could feel at times a bit like, but this is how I've always done it. Kind of like breaking old habits, breaking bad habits, changing and adapting into a new version of yourself that can then become the reliable identity that you have. Sudden change and shifts with all of this Aquarius energy because Uranus rules Aquarius. And also fixed, but this is how it's always been, especially with the Earth and the 3D plane with all of this Taurus energy. So, this full moon, if there have been themes that have been popping up in the past week or two already around like, something isn't working here and I want to shift this dynamic, this full moon can actually be a really amazing ignition point for you, a really great catalyst for allowing some of those old ways of being and identity of the self to just effortlessly, I'm just gonna let that go. Especially since it's between Virgo, which is the 6th house of order and routine and a daily structure, also health and also religion. And then we have Pisces, which is the 12th house and it's watery and it's sees beyond the physical 3D reality and through the veil of the ethers and is artistic and poetic and, not as like practical and organized of the 3D realm as Virgo can be, and is more spiritual, less religion, not saying one is better than the other. It's just we have these oppositions anytime a full moon is happening. I'm repeating myself in various ways so that it comes together and makes sense in different ways, okay? So we really have an ability to look at, how is it that my routine has been? Can I get creative with it and change things to really allow the identity and how I do things to again up level. This is all about personal transformation. We do have, when this full moon is happening, the rising is Scorpio. So there's a lot of transformation energy available in this rebirth, this rising. There's like a phoenix rising through the ashes dynamic with this full moon in particular. We also have Saturn forming a square to Uranus. So how has authority, like again, the identity, your authority or authority of others, how it's affected you, how can we rethink with the Aquarius energy in Saturn, which is not, Saturn is not so comfortable in Aquarius. Aquarius is the next restructure of the structure. So there's a bit of a conflict there that's been going on that we've been picking up on in different ways. How can I become a new authority of myself? How can I become a new authority in the work that I do and how I affect the world for the better? How can I become a new authority, like a nurturer in the home, in the family dynamic, with my children, with my parents, with myself as a child or a parent? How can I become an authority that's more flexible and reborn into this something that's brand new that you can rely upon. It's different than what you could rely upon in the past. We also have Saturn in Aquarius, where it's not quite at home, forming a sextile with Chiron in 7 degrees Aries. And so there's, again, as we put in that effort, as we really put in that elbow grease, or think about, okay, well, I'm right here and I want to be right here. What changes? How do I have to pivot to get here? Okay. Once you've decided how and you actually go for it and make the first moves and put in some effort, you can really have an incredible amount of healing come in around your identity, because Chiron is the wounded healer and all about how we heal our wounds or heal others. And it's in Aries, which is all about the self. Again, our own authority, our own identity. How can we become a pioneer in this new way of living, in this new way of showing up? What do I need to release that was a part of the past structure that was applicable for a period of time, but isn't working anymore as smoothly as it once did? Or just there's an expiration date there and I've been sensing it for a while and I'm transforming, and what am I transforming into? You have the ability to establish that authority of self, that inner authority with this full moon, and to heal and to help heal others by holding your authority. If it's really with a heart-centered, good intention, becoming your own authority can really help establish boundaries for yourself and for others to feel safe in. We also have Chiron forming, Chiron in Aries at 7 degrees, the wounded healer, forming in opposition with Make at 7 degrees Libra. So in which ways can we see where we've maybe, to be balanced and give to the other, in what ways have we put on a show in order to try to establish balance? And not to say that that's good or bad, but was it taking away from the authenticity of myself? And if I show up in this new way as a pioneer in a way, or a leader in my self-sovereignty, not only do I heal, but I actually, by holding more space for myself, hold more space for the other as well. Versus maybe I was over giving or appeasing by presenting myself as something bigger, or putting on a show in some way. That's make. Loosely, that's make. The make mythology and story is really fun. All of the mythology in astrology is just like blowing my mind in beautiful ways, like so much expansion, and those will all come out in different videos, and they do come out in personal readings for sure. Again, with horoscope things, and why I didn't really read horoscope for a long time is because it's general. It's so general. What I'm saying will ring true, but looking at your own individual chart will give a whole lot more clarity around, okay, well, have I been putting on a show in certain ways? Have I been acting like this to make the other feel like there's balance, but I've kind of been self-sacrificing a little bit, which is a Piscean theme, and we're in Pisces season. Pisces is a sage. Pisces is a wise, very wise old soul. And so have there been ways that you've been sacrificing or not listening to your own intuition and inner wisdom in order to follow the confines of well, no, but this is how we've always done it. because all of that type of structure and fixedness is ripe for transformation with this full moon. There's a lot of nurturing energy and mother energy. We have Ceres at 2 degrees Aries forming a sextile again with Chariklo at 2 degrees Aquarius. How can I rethink who I am as a nurturer, as a mother, whether I'm a single mother or a mother with another partner that's active in the house dynamic? You know, am I the one that has to go out and work to pay bills to also take care of the home because I'm a single mom? Or am I with a partner and we have, you know, the role reversal from the typical gender roles that we were grown up with? Take that, however that resonates. But there's a way of, again, sextile energy. How can I think of this differently and put in a little bit of effort to then have this very easy flowing dynamic? Can I change the way in which I nurture myself and nurture my children to help them see that they can be pioneers in a totally new way of thinking, in a very futuristic way? Because those are Aries and Aquarius themes that we're talking about. So much energy around taking your power back, and not that it was stolen, but in which ways did you give it away in the past because of the rules or expectations? And with this full moon, what can you release around that to bring yourself back home to you so that you can actually become more whole and show up in a more powerful, loving, nurturing, wise way for everyone involved, especially in the home and out in the world, in your career, in what you do, how you gift the world with your work. South Node forming a sextile. South Node is currently at 16 degrees Sagittarius. So we're all remembering skill sets that we've had through experiencing things, going out there and learning through life experiences. And we have two things happening with this South Node energy. We have another square. Squares are a bit more challenging, but they bring a lot of growth. Their potential for growth, their opportunities for growth. So we have the South Node, like skills that we have gained from the past around how we experience, how we learn through experience, and how we expand ourselves by living life, right? We learn a lot just by getting out there and living. So how can you take that experiential energy that you have, those skills that you've gained, and how can we rethink certain vows that you've made to the order of things? Vesta. The South Node is forming a square with Vesta in Virgo, which is where the moon is currently, and where we have this really effortless, easy aspect of Uranus, planet of sudden change, allowing us to release that Virgo order so that we can come back to home in our spirituality, our creativity, our empathy. So how can you rethink vows that you've made? And maybe with this full moon, if any of you are feeling that there are vows or things that are happening in your life that you don't know why it's not progressing forward, you may have made vows in a past life around this kind of topic. And so you can also put this in your full moon intention, that I release any vows that are hindering my growth or my prosperity or my health or my love or my success, whatever it might be that you're wanting to call in. Full moons are releasing so that we can call in better, right? We don't just like let go of things and then not think about what we want in place of it. That's why we let go. Like, we're human. We let go of things to make space for the new. Just like the trees lose their leaves once a year so that when spring comes around, which is what we're heading into, so you can kind of look at it this way. If you haven't let go of certain things from that fall or winter time, well, what is it that you want to call in? What is it that you want to grow or have reborn in your life or bloom? What crops, what seeds do you want to plant and nurture so that they can grow and you can harvest them? If you didn't let go of the things from this past year, this full moon in Virgo, hello, cut all of that away. Thinking of the scythe and the wheat and allowing yourself to now, better late than never. If you haven't released what you thought you were supposed to release a few months ago, this full moon with a trine to Uranus is like, there can be sudden, smooth ways of letting go. You just have to allow it. Don't hold on. So what type of vows have you made that are still holding you back? That, like, it's a contract that has expired, but you're still living like it's still holding you to that agreement. What can you release vow-wise so that you can step into this new identity of who you are and where you're going towards? This up-leveled version of you. We also have Jupiter forming a sextile with the South Node energy. So those past life skills, or those skills that we've learned throughout this lifetime in our past, well, if we put, again, a little bit of intention and effort into rethinking, because Aquarius energy, again, lots of Aquarius energy in this. How can I think about my expansion and my fortune and what would be beneficial to me and to others? Well, once you kind of have a clearer idea of what you're wanting to grow into, what you're wanting to become, that's going to be beneficial, it helps you to, again, release whatever hasn't been working, whatever methods and structures or vows or identities that you've carried through that up until this point, there's an expiration date. This is the full moon to release that. And with that, to visualize what you're becoming and to feel into that new identity, which is much more nurturing for you and others. There's a lot of self-sovereignty, a lot of inner authority, and not a, what is the word that I'm looking for? Not authority like, I'm in charge and I rule you and I will place these rules upon you. No, like not a distorted authority, but a very divine authority. The authority that has the best intention for self and all included. What else do you want to say? A little paper with all of my notes on it from this morning. I think I've kind of covered everything. Let me just see. Last thing here, because there's a lot of divine feminine with all the different asteroids that are popping up between Cheriklo and Ceres, and but we also have Chiron and Makemake in there. There's a balance. We're integrating. We're integrating into a more balanced version of ourself. Again, I don't have to keep repeating all of that over and over again. So the last thing here that I want to bring up is Juno, 19 degrees Sagittarius, forming a square with Neptune at 20 degrees Pisces. And so, in which ways, this is especially talking to those in partnership, especially the female role or female archetype out there. How have you experienced yourself as a partner, as a wife? This could also be as a husband, but definitely it's a bit more of the divine feminine aspect here. In which ways have you experienced being that partner? And how how has it kind of conflicted in a way with your big dreams, your big fantasies around spirituality, around art, around music, around your inner wisdom? Have there been ways that in partnership you've been keeping parts of you held back for fear of rocking the boat, or not really truly stepping into your authenticity, your divinity? Because when you do, you are again becoming much more sovereign, much more of a reliable authority that's nurturing, that's loving, that is healing and healed, so that you can have space for yourself and take care of yourself, so that you can take care of others even better. Like, what's the identity? This is for everyone, whether you're a mom or not, or a partner or not, or whoever you are. What is the identity that you've been living in that just doesn't feel authentic anymore to who you're becoming? And how can you utilize this full moon energy to allow yourself to actually very swiftly release some of those old stories, old dynamics, old, contracts, so that you can step into a more evolved, integrated, divine, loving, nurturing authority figure to hold space for you so you can hold space for others. All right, well, that was fun. I hope that resonates. I hope that helps. I hope you enjoyed that. And I'm going to leave you there. Happy full moon. Think about your intentions for this full moon. And I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.